It's August 22nd, 2019, and this is the Richard S. Thomas Video Resume CV. Richard S. Thomas, 1000 East 53rd Street, Unit 405, Chicago, Illinois, 60615, 312-285-5415. Richard Stephen Thomas, Stephen with a V, at gmail.com. Richard Thomas at richardthomasjd.com. Statement of purpose. Writing and spoken word are my arts. Law and improvisational theater are my training. I'm an art teacher in supplement to my arts. Now, which arts do I teach? Improvisation, public speaking, writing, connecting, case making, storytelling. For who? Your students and professionals at your school or firm. Art about what? Their professional and personal lives. I'm not a guru. I teach a creative process to help them figure out how to be happier, more effective, and of greater service. I'm very well credentialed. If you want to see those credentials, go to www.richardthomasjd.com /about, the about page on my website. Ethical Presence TM is a method that merges the ethical consciousness, critical thinking and organization, and communication and personal presence skills that every professional needs to be effective, a positive influence, and personally successful. And I apply my ethical presence method to consulting, teaching, coaching, speaking about, writing about, developing, strengthening, enhancing, and promoting humanity, empathy, professionalism, creativity, communication, public speaking, critical thinking, interpersonal connecting, case making, and storytelling, career and personal discovery and advocacy, applied ethics, leadership, and other human and professional concerns and skills. My life and career has been worked at the intersection of ethical presence, reason, improvisation, and creativity. I'm an alumnus of the resident company of Chicago's Second City Theater. I trained with Paul Sills and David Shepard, the founders of that theater. I'm a trial attorney. I specialized in professional responsibility. I was a litigation counsel at the ARDC, and I'm a former clinical assistant professor of business that taught professional presence and business ethics at the UIC College of Business. Okay, so the summary of that, I have this consulting company that I started a few months ago. I was a clinical assistant professor at UIC, as I mentioned, from 2013 through 2018. I practiced in the year, I became a lawyer in 2006, and my specialization was in professional responsibility and ethics. As I said, an alumnus of Second City. I have a Bachelor in Communication, a Bachelor of Arts in Communication Arts and American Studies from Notre Dame, and I have a JD from Loyola Law School. And I have bar admissions. I became a member of the Illinois State Bar. I'm a licensed Illinois attorney. I became a member in 2006. And also in 2006, I became a member of the bar for the Northern District of Illinois. So that's in summary. I have a certificate from Washington State University Global Campus in Excellence in Online Teaching. I got that in 2017. And I also have a certificate from the National Institute of Trial Advocacy in Trial Practice Skills. I got that in 2011, and I have experience doing trials. I did hearings at the ARDC. So you can see there's all these credentials and background that there is really experience in creativity, and there's experience in critical thinking, and there's experience in teaching. There's quite a bit of it. I taught street law when I was at Loyola in law school. At the University of Notre Dame, I was a resident assistant in Keenan Hall, also the co-founder and MC of the original Keenan Hall Review, which they still do today. So it goes that far back in terms of being involved in both education and the arts. My academic and teaching experience, first, that it's Richard Thomas JD LLC, Ethical Presence Consulting. The consulting is related to the teaching. I mean, the idea is that I sit down with a firm or whatever, and I talk about whatever their issues are, and then through that consultation, come up with some sort of teaching strategy, sample customized training services for clients, improvisation for professionals, teaching as a professional. By the way, these are all their tabs for all of these on my website, richardthomasjd.com. So improvisation for professionals, teaching as a professional, public speaking, communicating and connecting, storytelling and case making, career discovery and advocacy, and applied ethics. When I was at UIC, I taught managerial communications, I taught professional presence, business ethics, corporate sustainability, and social responsibility. I worked on the assessment college-wide of student writing and oral presentation skills. I presented improvisational workshops regarding networking, team building, and presentation skills at the Leotold Graduate School at their orientations, and also for transfer and honor student boot camps and intensives. I coached intra and intercollegiate case presentation teams. I presented improvisational workshops and publicly spoke to incoming students for the college recruiting and admission initiatives. I spoke to student organizations regarding professional development topics, worked on team curriculum development projects for the professional development initiatives, and led an intensive seminar for public speaking, teaching, and presenting for staff of the UIC Business School. I also I was on a dissertation committee at Chicago State University for a doctoral candidate in educational leadership. I presented Speed Case, an introduction to creating case analyses like a lawyer and presenting them like an actor, to the Association to Advance Collegiate Schools of Business. As a master teaching scholar through the Learning Center, the Office of the Vice Provost for Faculty Affairs at UIC, and I taught a workshop to, it was campus-wide for teachers and instructors of all levels, from teaching assistants to PhD tenured professors. It's kind of finding and exploring your teacher's voice. I was a guest lecturer at Loyola Law School, Chicago, Department of Experiential Learning, professional presentation skills in and out of the courtroom, the classroom, or the boardroom. I was an adjunct faculty before that, before I was at UIC, in the Department of Justice, Law, and Public Safety Studies at Lewis University, legal research and writing, interviewing and investigating, rights, civil liability and administrative actions, ethics and professional responsibility, torts, and personal injury law. I was a judge for the ABA, American Bar Association Law Student Division Appellate Advocacy Competition. I was a guest lecturer again at Loyola Law School for the Career Services Office, Basic Communication Skills for Attorneys. I was visiting faculty. Actually, it was one day. It's not like it was a visiting faculty appointment. But I presented a workshop there for their professionalism program, communication skills needed by attorneys. I've done master teacher continuing legal education programs for also at Southern Illinois University School of Law, for the Arkansas State Bar Association, for the Forensic Expert Witness Association. That's a CPE, I guess, not CLE for them. Communication skills for expert witnesses. CLE again for the National Asian Pacific American Associate. Also, I did CLE at Goldberg, Weissman, and Cairo for their trial attorneys. Improvisation for lawyers, basic communication skills for trial practitioners. I was adjunct faculty of the trial practice intensives at Loyola University School of Law in Chicago. So I was a communication skills instructor on that faculty. I was a master series and faculty development teacher. This was developing faculty for the Illinois State Bar Association. So these were lawyers who were going to teach CLEs in other areas. So I taught basic communication skills for attorneys, ethics and professionalism, basic communication skills for trial practitioners, teaching, public speaking, and presenting skills. As I said, I was a litigation counsel for the Attorney Registration in Illinois and Disciplinary Commission in Illinois. I argued and litigated and presented disciplinary hearing matters before panels of the ARDC, before their hearing board. I presented proposed disciplinary complaints to panels of the ARDC Inquiry Board. I advised the ARDC administrator on sanction recommendations in disciplinary matters. All litigation counsels do that. Wrote motions considered and allowed by the Illinois Supreme Court, managed and conducted investigations of disciplinary complaints, counseled attorney regarding compliance with the Illinois Rules of Professional Conduct on the ARDC Ethics Inquiry Hotline, wrote informational articles for the ARDC website, prepared CLE accredited seminar tips on public speaking, publicly wrote about ARDC policies and procedures at a seminar conducted by the U.S. Marshal Service. Before that, I was an associate at the firm Meckler, Bulger, and Tilson. I acted as a liaison to various stakeholders to facilitate development of amicus briefs for client association. I wrote and researched memos on various topics, for example, the culture of the state of Connecticut, to advise on jury selection. I drafted pleadings. I rewrote portions of a practice guide related to attorney-client and work product privileges, and I participated in a group which considered innovative ways of using demonstrative evidence in complex litigation. This is going further back now. This is back all the way to 2001. I became a lawyer in 2006. So I was at the Illinois Attorney General's Office Gang Crime Prevention Center in Chicago, Director of Marketing, Legislation, and Special Assignments. I wrote advisory memos for various stakeholders, for example, whether or not smaller municipalities should adopt legislation similar to Chicago's 2002 gang crime loitering ordinance. I wrote Hearing Voices, an examination of international approaches to encouraging nonviolence. I produced a cable access television show about the center's activities in Rockford, Illinois. I marketed and performed outreach for statewide conference on gang crime prevention to various stakeholders, including law enforcement personnel, judges, attorneys, community leaders, clergy, educators, and citizens. Now going much further back, 1999 to 2000, I was with an outfit called Vocational Economics, which provided expert witness services, particularly in lost earning capacity cases. So I handled marketing for that firm. Okay, now on to onto the next section of the CV. Academic and legal publications and writing and spoken word. For writing and spoken word, these are my primary arts, and this is really my focus. So the teaching is a supplement to my art, and I read a line once that made a big impression on me. It said, if you're an artist, your art is your work, and teach a lower grade version of your art as your job. And that's basically what I do and what I'm trying to do. So if you want to see my art, you can look at my blog, which is at richardstephenthomas.wordpress.com. And that's the process and development of the writing and the spoken word. And I've recently, maybe the last month or so, I started to do these very down and dirty, rough videos that get to the spoken word aspect of what I do. So there's that. Then I also have a manuscript, Voice Lessons, Reflections on the Art of Being Professional and Authentic. And this is basically a book. It's a collection of my ideas that are related to what I said, basically about what I teach, all the different aspects that I offer through my company and what I have done in the classroom. Okay, there's that. I adapt that, by the way, all the time. That manuscript, I'll change it. If I teach in another group or whatever, I might add things, or I might change the way it's packaged or delivered so that they can understand it. I have a copyrighted abstract for the Association to Advance Schools of Business. That was that piece on how to make a case like a lawyer and present it like an actor. I have the Illinois State Bar Association. I wrote an article for them, presentation planning, what we can learn from the theater, what we can learn from the theater. When I did courses, they call these things books. They're actually like extensive articles, like maybe 45 or 50 pages a piece. So I have these course books. There's actually 4 of them. The Art of Effective Communication, Introduction to Improvisation for Lawyers, Basic Communication Skills for Public Speaking, Teaching, and Presenting. There's another book, Introduction to Improvisation for Lawyers, Basic Communication Skills for Attorneys. The third book is Introduction to Improvisation for Lawyers, Basic Communication Skills Needed to Effectively Comply with the Illinois Rules of Professional Conduct. And the last one is Introduction to Improvisation for Lawyers, Basic Communication Skills for Trial Practitioners. So this is what we have done. Back in 2011, I wrote a column for the Chicago Daily Law Bulletin. Today's legal job market requires organization. I'm not going to go through all of these articles, but I was the reporter for the Midwest region for the National Organization of Bar Council in 2009. So I wrote disciplinary case summaries for those 9 states of the Midwest region, and wrote case of the month analysis. And this is all pretty much technical, professional responsibility law pieces. Improper litigation management and improper oversight of an inexperienced subordinate attorney. Disbarment is an appropriate sanction when a lawyer fails to conform his behavior to his large law firm's culture of ethical practice, notwithstanding attention deficit disorder, sleep apnea, and severe personality problems, and on and on. There's several of these articles that I wrote. Okay. And now let's get to my theater arts experience. And I think the diversity and the breadth of my experience is a big point of what I have to offer. Because I've worked at a fairly high level in the professional world. I have a lot of teaching experience. I mean, beyond the 5 years at UIC and then the adjunct work at Lewis before that. I mean, that was the most recent. And that's definitely higher ed teaching experience, but I was an arts educator for a long time. I taught improvisation for years. So the teaching experience, the professional experience, as a lawyer, and now this portion of the CV, which is my theater arts experience. So I was well. Let's do this. Right, I did the Rick Blog Live on Stage, and I did all these shows recently. I would say the last one was in December of 2017. And what I learned from there really is that my work had developed, and actually I think a better representation of my work and where it's going is in those down and dirty videos, similar technically to this one. I mean, there's nothing elaborate about the videos in terms of the performance, but the writing did not really fit these kind of comedy venues that I was in. Although it's in my background, and it's, to me, it's like a credential, like a degree. My experience with Second City is like a PhD in creativity. But I really haven't done that for years. And so I did the Rick Blog Live on Stage recently. Now, if we go back, I was in the resident company at Second City in Chicago. I taught improvisational acting classes for years at Second City, the Victory Gardens Theater, and independently. My work at Second City was well reviewed by many publications and critics, including Frank Rich of the New York Times, John Simon of New York Magazine. I received Obie and Joseph Jefferson Award nominations for ensemble acting. I performed in Second City's 50th anniversary alumni show. I co-wrote and performed in Second City Review's Exit Pursued by a Bear, Glenna Loved It, and Orwell That Ends Well. I directed Second City's national touring company, developing young talent, including Chris Farley, Stephen Colbert, and Amy Sedaris. I did film acting work for Mike Nichols, and it's the therapy scene. This is on YouTube. It's also on my LinkedIn page. All over the place, actually, in the movie Heartburn. So that was part of my experience. I did some film acting work for Woody Allen. I was a freelance writer for Saturday Night Live and Sesame Street, performance artist and comedian. I worked at the Second City ETC Theater with a late night show. I worked at the Improv Comedy Club in New York and the West Bank Cafe. And these shows, I have to say, they were called The Rick Show and Good Times. And they were praised by Second City founder Paul Sills and sort of sponsored by West Bank Cafe free show founder Lewis Black. Okay, so I led improvisational workshops and performed for the Young Presidents Organization at a retreat in Hawaii one time. And this is, I mention this because the performance included an audience that had former President Jimmy Carter. And so that's basically it. So that's it. I'm a writer. and a spoken word artist. Okay. I teach to supplement that art. That is my CV and resume. Thanks for listening. I put a tie on for you. You know, I don't joke around really. I'm serious. I'm a serious teacher, but I have to tell you, I'm not wearing pants right now. And I have a sports jacket and a tie on. And of course with slacks, like a pair of Dockers. But I have to say another wish that I have, I never want to have to dress up more than that. I bet I can dress like this as a teacher or a little more casually. That's all I want to do. I never want to put on a suit again. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Yeah. Oh, and LinkedIn. So, this will be posted on LinkedIn. If you see this on LinkedIn, you want to talk to me about doing something, contact me on LinkedIn. Facebook. If you see it on Facebook, you can reach out to me on Facebook. I gave you, let me give this to you again. Richard Stephen Thomas, Stephen with a V, at gmail.com. The second one might be easy to remember. Richard Thomas at richardthomasjd.com. So you can, those are my email addresses. And 312-285-5415. Okay. Thank you. Bye.